You're never going to master Rust unless you learn how to build efficiently. I've set out to explain my best tips on how to design bases. As requested, I've also recorded a live uninterrupted build explaining my thought process from the very beginning, along with many other aspects. This will be a short tips and tricks section followed by the build tutorial. It's in a special format where I'll be talking live, so let me know what you think. Over the past few months, I personally designed and launched an aerospace themed clothing brand, AVISIO. I've worked really hard on this and I'd greatly appreciate any support. The brand aims to connect content creators with their fan base, starting off with my very own merch. Right now you can check out the official Indominus merch via the website down in the description. There is also a range of other designs you may be interested in. The Indominus merch comes in a range of colours from white, red, green, blue and black. So to start off with, we're going to talk about footprint selection. I'd say this is the most important part of a build and it's going to affect your entire build process. The most important thing I'd say is, one, the size of the group that you're going to be playing in. Like for example, this core here with 4 triangles is very small and you wouldn't be able to live out of this unless you're in maybe a duo or a solo, maybe a trio, but it's very tight for that. So then this will expand off, of course, 2x2, could be a 3x3 or a 4x4, depends what you're doing. Selecting your footprint will also affect the bunker that you use. So for example, in a 2x2, you're actually quite limited to what bunkers you can use. Usually you'd use roof bunkers with the raised foundation that most people use when you upgrade this to wood. Then in this one here, you also have the roof bunker option. I think this is the most common footprint for an eggshell. So when you do this, and you would leave this as wood and you can hatchet this out. For the triangle, all circle one. This is a bit limiting, really. The only bunker you can do is a stair bunker, I believe. I don't think there's any other bunkers that you can do with this type of core. And of course, if you're console players, you can't do this core and bunker it. And then this one here, you also have a limitation. You can do the 2 raised triangle foundations when you do this kind of bunker. So another important thing to consider is how you play wipes. So for example, if you're a snowballer and you like to join servers late and you want to get raided, I'd say most of the footprints you want to do is a 4x4. You see a lot of popular streamers using 4x4s or 3x3s, as these are very weak to raid. And of course that's appealing for anyone who wants to raid the base, therefore you have more chance to have an online. These are very, very easy to set up as well. They're very simple. You don't have to make them too special. You don't have to do any special building techniques when you're building 4x4s or 3x3s. You can also do the same with 2x2s. Of course, this can then expand into a 4x4 if you don't add an airlock on the side. So with the egg footprint, this is very popular among a lot of players, and I like to do this footprint in many of my base designs. However, one of the downsides of the egg footprint is the starter. So most configurations will either have a bunker out one of these squares, or you just have a jump up there. So usually this would be your starter. And as you can see, this is very inconvenient because if you have double doors, which most people will have in their core of their egg, you can't airlock this very easily. People can go deep super easy, as well as the starter, you'd have a TC in one of these corners here, and then you'd have to use loot in this side. So if anyone were to go deep this stage, they can go left or right, and you can't get into the other side of the loot room, which is quite awkward. And this isn't the best for snowballing. So if you're doing a longer wipe, this is quite a good option. But you could have the option of just building a simple 2x1 with an airlock, and then farming up materials, and then doing all of this at once, and you wouldn't have the issue of people going deep, and you'd have a decent amount of space for all your loot. Now you may ask, how do you decide between the bunkers and also the footprints that go with them if you're, say, a solo or a duo, because you're pretty much not limited by anything in that case? I'd say it entirely depends on your playstyle. You've also got to consider how easy it is to expand and also start out. So for example, a circle core, even though it's not exactly the best size for, say, storage, as well as the amount of players that you have inside this core, one of the best things about it is you can start out very, very cheaply. So you could simply place something like this, or of course with a window as well, and then you could just live out of this, which doesn't take long at all to build, and also super cheap. It's not very strong though. One of the issues with an all triangle core It's not very good for adding airlocks. So for example, in 2x2s or 2x1s, as you know, you can add an airlock and just slap it on the edge. And usually that fits within your honeycomb on all sides, keeping the symmetry. But with a circle bunker, it's not the best, because say you're doing this and then you're going to go off with squares in all directions. You can't easily add an early game airlock. So actually, a word on these airlocks. A lot of players don't realize that the orientation of the airlock makes a massive difference to how effective it is. So you always want to place the single door on the left hand side as you exit the base. It's not vital to have it on every single airlock you have throughout the base, but it's quite important with the starter. This prevents people from going deep, because if you have it in the opposite configuration like this, if you have it in this configuration, this inner door will airlock this outer door. So for example, if you're here, you open it, you then die, and they then go deep here. You can't open this door without letting them into your base. However, if you flip it round like this, of course you probably want it over here, but for the sake of explaining, you have it in this configuration. You're then inside, you open the door, and then you die exactly like before. But this time, you can open this door and not let them in, and then kill them inside your airlock. So it prevents you from letting them go deep all the way into your base. So that's quite an important thing to think about when designing the orientation of the core and how you're going to exit your base. So hopefully you've decided what kind of footprint you are going to use when designing your base. You can always switch this up, of course. You're not set on it. You can design loads of different bases. So in this case, I'm going to show an example for the egg footprint, as it's the most popular. And I'd say it's not the easiest one to expand, but it's also relatively nice to expand. You have a decent amount of options of what you can do with it. So I'm just going to enable symmetry. Symmetry is another thing to mention as well. I am very obsessed with making all bases symmetrical. This is just nice to have, because then it's all balanced and keep raiders guessing of which side is the entrance as well. If you want to use fake entrances, that's a whole different topic though. So yeah, with symmetry activated, the obvious thing to do is just to honeycomb like this. And then your next expansion step depends massively on if you want to have a roof bunker. So in this case, if we want to add a roof bunker, we obviously raise this foundation here. And then we will upgrade this only to wood, like this, so we can hatch it out later. So if you have this setup here, this is a very common setup. Obviously on each side, you then want to make it symmetrical. So you have one layer of honeycomb into your core at this stage. So if I then seal in this area like this will be your jump up, so you don't want to seal that in. Like this. So each side has one wall. However, this is the weak point, and when you upgrade this to armor, it will be showing on the outside, so it's going to be obvious to guess where the TC is, because it's going to be on this side or this side. To counter that, you do want to cover this foundation, and you want to do this on every side. So you can either do 2 triangles, and then you'd need to then wrap around and do the same on each of these sides here. So you're left with this layout. Then what I think about is trying to balance the raid cost. So you currently have 2 walls into the core like this. You can also add a splash wall here. This doesn't increase the direct raid cost into each area, but it will increase the raid cost to get into 2 sides. So it's worth adding this wall here. You don't need to upgrade it, but just leave it stone. You can even use doorways here as well, I believe, to decrease the cost of the build process. So once you've got 2 layers of honeycomb, you'll notice that now we have 3 layers on the sides with the bunker and the triangles. You can see that these sides are then lacking a wall, so then you can add a wall here. Now, I'd say the core, you need a minimum of 3 walls. If you get 2 walls, it's like a bit weak, but it depends what kind of base you're building and if you split loot. So I would commonly honeycomb this by using roofs. This is the most effective way of doing it, and I think it's the cheapest way of doing it as well. This also allows you to use the ramps as access to your base, so you can enter through this triangle here, or this triangle here, this triangle here. So you can see you can add doors anywhere along this side. That's a good way to enter through the 2nd floor. That's another point as well. You want to make sure that you enter the base through the layer that you don't have your TC or your core loot. So for example, you wouldn't want to have a doorway on this side here. You wouldn't want to have a doorway on the second floor if you were to have your loot on the second floor. That goes for open core bases as well. When open cores are like the 4th level, 3rd level, you don't want to have your entrance on the 2nd or 3rd level. It's very rare you'd have it on the 3rd level, but 2nd floor. You can then have your entrance on the bottom floor, the ground floor, so then you can increase the door path all the way up to your core if you're using an open core setup. So once you've got to this configuration, we can expand this by adding an extra layer. So we just add a layer like this, keeping at least one wall to the second layer. If you have it like this. Now, you then want to add your entrance, so you can do this either way. This depends on what kind of shooting floor you're going to use. So if you're going to instantly use this area as part of your shooting floor, so if you wanted to use, say, a door peak here, like this, you would then be limited on adding your door here, because you then have an extra double doorway here and you don't want to block your peak outside. You can use this though. This could be a good option if you want to keep your door or your entrance clear from door campers. So you can maybe put some chain link here, or you could put double doors and you can still peek down into your airlock. That could be an option. But we're going to assume that we don't have a shooting floor yet. We haven't designed it yet. So the obvious choice is just to add it into one of these walls here. And once again, using the same logic as before, you want to put single doors in this configuration. So that means that you then have an entrance here. You've also got to consider where your bunker entrance is. So actually, I wouldn't put it on this side. I'd put it on this side. This means then that you have the maximum door path into your bunker, like this. So if we then replace this with 4 walls for now, we then have this configuration. Now, another important factor is the floor, the first floor that raiders come to if they're taking a door path into your core. So this floor here is the first floor that they reach that would go directly into your core. That means your TC should be on this side here, because this is an increased raid cost. So even if they blow the single door here, going through this wall, especially if you upgrade it to metal, and then an armored roof, is a lot more than just going through 2 single doors, maybe a garage door, and then one floor, and you're directly straight to TC. So that's not a very strong base. So once we've decided that, we can then seal in the second floor and decide what you're going to do for your roof access. I would recommend trying to avoid using ladder hatches. I know I do use these in my bases, but the issue with ladder hatches is it's one, very easy to blow through, because it's just a single door strength, so it's just 1 rocket and a bit of expo ammo. But it's also very awkward to defend in, and if you're in a larger group of maybe 2 to 3 people, as some of you may know and you've played in larger groups with ladder hatches, it's a pain to go up and down the shooting floor and throughout the base. It's not very easy to move around. So once you have your area that you're going to add your bunker, you can also add a roof access, or sorry, second floor access through this jump up here. That means you can avoid using a ladder hatch in the base. There's also another point to mention, that when you're using a bunker here, like this, it will be quite awkward to jump up. Now, if this is wood, as we said before, you can use different methods to get up. So you can use furnaces like this, and you can jump up like this. It's quite an awkward jump for beginners though. So you might want to use a staircase, where you just put a twig staircase here, like this. And this also allows you to get up quite easily. Then once you've got your jump up, you can then seal in this area by using simple walls. And then you want to decide where you're going to put your entrances into your shooting floor if you were to have a shooting floor on the 3rd level. Now in this case, we want to always try and have 2 entrances onto either side of the base. This means that, say, raiders come here and they build a raid base over here. It's a very simple raid base, but you see the point. So if you have your one entrance onto your shooting floor through the single door here, and raiders are blowing in from this side, they might expose this single door entrance, and then you simply can't defend your base because you can't get out onto the shooting floor unless you have flank respawn areas that connect into the shooting floor via other routes. So it's always important to add another single door. Say, for example, on this side here, that means you can then access all of your shooting floor when we do make it. That's an important point to add. Sometimes you won't have the option of adding multiple entrances onto your shooting floor if you have a smaller base, or you want to have more storage, or maybe like another core respawn area, say in this square here. You then obviously wouldn't want to have another area for your single door. So once you've got to this stage, you want to try and add your entrances into your shooting floor. It depends massively on what kind of shooting floor you're going to go for. You want to decide where you're going to build out. So with a smaller base, you don't necessarily need a 360-degree shooting floor where you can run around all of the outside like this. And especially with the egg footprint in this configuration, it's quite awkward to add a shooting floor. Now, I think what I'm going to go for is a wide gap shooting floor off these 3 triangles here on each side. In order to do that, we're going to expand in this direction here. Now what that decides for our entrances is we kind of need it in the same direction that we're expanding in, especially if we're not doing a full 360-degree run around shooting floor. So these will probably just be windows or maybe just storage space. We're not sure yet. So we're going to leave this open, and we're not going to expand necessarily like this yet. So we'll see. We'll see. We will then add our double entrances. And we will, for now, just wall in this area like this. Okay. We can also use these 2 triangles here as a way to reach our roof. So that's an option later that we can add. So now I'm going to put symmetry back on. So we're going to make our wide gap shooting floor. So I would put 2 frames here just to support these floors. And then we're going to do our wide gap. So to do that, I'm going to switch to twig. And to expand by 2 triangles, build out simply by 2 squares, another triangle, and then simply build back with triangles. And that is all we will need. One important thing with wide gapping is it's super good for adding your external TCs. So you can connect wide gaps into one TC through a certain method I will show now, if I can work it out. But you can see that we built out by 2 squares, right? So if we then go back in this original triangle that we placed when putting the 2 squares out, you can then connect to this by using frame, and you can see this connects, and then you can build out like this, and technically this part is wide gapped like this, you see. Obviously this isn't the best configuration, but so you can connect it to your main TC if you don't want to have external TCs, but I would recommend adding external TCs when you do wide gaps. It will make it way more efficient. You're always going to want external TCs to prevent griefing. So now we've wide gapped it. This is a very common configuration if you're doing wide gaps and you're connected to external TCs, is that you can add your flank respawn areas in this external TC and shooting floor part that's separated from the main TC. As this is a lot of building blocks that you're adding, as you're doing it 3 times on each side, and the more building blocks you add to one TC, the price of upkeep exponentially increases. So you want to always make sure that your external TC is upkeeping as much as possible of the base. So in this case, we're going to expand with just this square and 2 triangles on either side. This is a very common configuration for a gatehouse or flank respawn area, as you can add a nice turret pod on top as well, and add some Patrico peaks. So we're going to expand by these 2 squares. These are mainly just going to be to support our shooting floor. So as you can see, if we then expand like this, we can then connect these up, and we'll have our wide gap shooting floor. For now, we're just going to add windows on all sides. We're not going to leave it like this though, because we want to have a bit more cover than this. This is too open. You can get shot from every angle at once, so this isn't ideal. We're just going to leave it like that for now. Now, for our entrance, I'd add 2 single doors on either side, because you want to be able to exit both sides, for the same reason that we added 2 entrances into our shooting floors. Now, as you can see, I've already made an error here. We can't even access this part because of this wall here. So we're going to need to rework this. Either we can move our jump up to the middle, so you can see that with an egg footprint, you'll commonly actually need to switch to a triangle ladder hatch to facilitate a shooting floor if it doesn't already have connections across. So actually for now we're going to do that. We're actually going to add a single ladder hatch. We're going to add another entrance on this side here. So you can see that's just an iterative process. You're going to realize things don't work, or you're not going to be able to access certain areas. So let me just put symmetry on. I'm just going to complete this shooting floor area. You may see with wide gaps as well, is that you can't seal this area in. So if someone were to land on your roof with a mini, they can just watch all sides of your shooting floor and you can't even use it. So to stop this, we can add roofs either in this direction, like this, and it kind of prevents them from shooting down this way. So we can then reverse those, and we can do this, or you can do double like this, which completely seals it, but it looks a bit silly, so it doesn't really work that well. I would say in this configuration, you want to actually put it this way. I'll explain a little bit later, but this is mainly so then we can build the roof around this. So if I get a gun, you can see that you can use this as a, I don't know if the technical term for this is a mountain roof, because I'm not really a clan scene builder, but you can use both parts of your shooting floor from below as well as from above. This is a great way to fight and defend your base. If you have a raid base over here, they can't even see you if you're on this level. But you can still use the same peaks from above, which is quite neat. So we're going to leave that for now. And now what we're going to do is we're going to complete our typical Patrico Peak gate houses. So I'm going to add an entrance to the back of this as well. So we add a back entrance, same rule again, we add a single door on the left hand side to get an airlock that's effective. We also want to put a window here for increased vision. So it's like this. And now we want to put 2 walls, put a ring of half walls above. And now we can then add the normal configuration like this. Add our turret pod on top. Add windows on either side. And then we're going to create a Patrico Peaks by adding a half wall. And then a low wall below. And then we're going to want to add a ramp like this. That means the turret above will have a decent angle down below. Instead of just blocking it off like this, you can see that the angles are slightly different. And then we want to repeat this on the other side. Like this. Now, you can then expand and add a bit of chain link protection, maybe like this. Or you can actually add it in here. I think we're going to do that. We don't want to build out too much. You always want to be conscious of how much you're adding to the base and the effect it's bringing to the base. It depends what servers you play. If you're playing a 10x, obviously that doesn't matter, but if you're playing vanilla, and especially solo or duo, you want to try and minimize the build cost and upkeep as much as possible. So this is what we've got so far. I'm pretty happy with this, so we're going to put another chain link here and another chain link here. This will support the shooting floor as well. And what I've realised now is that we could actually make a nice little peak here. So we could remove this. Then it will affect our turret protection. But if we add 2 chain links here instead, and we can actually add a window like this. That means then we can get some decent angles outside. We can then add a horizontal embrasure like this. That seems to get some decent angles. We can then turn this into maybe a jump up to the shooting floor. The roof, sorry. No, okay, we're not going to do that because we want to keep these roofs here. So we're actually just going to add this like that. And then, yep. Okay, this looks quite good. We don't want to keep these here. So when you're up here, you can still use these peaks here, which is quite good. So we'll keep it like that. And I'd actually... So if you were to put half walls here before you were to add these roofs here, you could then add 2 frames. It's quite awkward to place. And I'm pretty sure you can place these frames from the outside. Maybe. Maybe not. Okay, you might need to do this before you add the honeycomb if you were to actually build this on a server. But we're obviously just designing the base for now. But actually, we're going to add these here. And then we're going to add these ramp peaks. It protects your head. And then we're going to replace this with a single... Oh, yeah. Replace the single door with a window. Then we can add a projector peak here. Then we also want to add our double doors. And as we have the stability on this side here, we have no option of which side we put the double doors. Now, obviously with double doors opening outwards, you cover this gap here, which will protect you a little bit more. So right now we have some very decent angles actually from here. You might want to remove this jump up actually, so you can get a bit more crouching angles. Could add this here for now. This might get some decent angles to clear the roof. They're not amazing, but they could surprise raiders if you were to jump up like this. So we're going to leave that for now. Then we're going to add the single doors. Alright, now we can then seal in this area, and we're going to make this our jump up at some point. This is what we've got so far. Now, let me just replace these, because there's a bit of a glitch on the build server. So it's like this. This is what we've got so far. So one thing I'd actually think about is from the raider's perspective. So while you're building your base, you can see that if you were to be a raider, where would you hit when you're going to raid this base? Now, I would say probably this spot here, or this spot here, as it gives access to the main central core area, and it splashes a lot of things at the same time. Now, this is actually very good with our design, because we've got separated shooting floors that are on the edges of where it's most enticing to hit, and probably the most popular place to start raiding, especially with rockets. So this is actually quite a good configuration what we've got here. One of the things you got to think about is where your compound is going to be as well, and if the foundations are going to block you. So let's just get walls out. You might ask why wooden walls. Of course, now you can upgrade wooden walls to stone walls, so this doesn't really matter too much. But the reason I always build in wooden walls is because, one, they're cheap to make. They're usually easy to get access to wood rather than stone. You also want to use stone on the base, especially during the early hours of wipe. So with wood, you bait the raider to go through the foundation route, the compound route, instead of through walls and your flank bedrooms and doorways and stuff that you want to keep control of. So as you can see here, these foundations block us from placing these walls. You can get it at this angle here, so that's actually kind of alright. So we're actually going to leave this, but you sometimes might need to rearrange your foundations if you can't place these walls. So just checking the symmetry is still on. We can then place our walls and see what kind of configuration we end up with, and see if these walls line up. I think that's alright. Perfect. So these line up perfectly. So we're just going to complete the compound now. And just pressing shift, you can get a much easier way of placing the walls instead of them being warped upwards and when they're connecting to each of the other walls. Then we want to place barricades on here. I don't know how we're going to do this actually, because we've got these walls here. What we can do is we can expand out a bit, and we can add one here like this, and then we can add one here by expanding out again, maybe by 2, so we just add it like this, and then we add another one here. Awesome. Now instead of this, we could actually place it on top of the roof here, so then that way it kind of doesn't block our peak here as much. So we're going to do that, I think. Remember, people can build off this, so maybe that's not the best idea. But you might, yeah, you might want to add both even. It's completely up to you. I'm going to put just one here for now, I think. So now we've got the compound sorted, we've got an entrance. As you can see, we'll add a back entrance here. If you wanted to add a gate here, or maybe a gatehouse by expanding off the main base. So if you were to add like a single door here or something like that, then you wouldn't need to have this entrance into your flank bedroom, and this would be a little bit more secure if you'd prefer that. Now we're just going to add back the wall, because we're not going to do that. So we're just going to add doorways. If you don't already have a door skin that has a window on it that's see-through, as you can see, we can look through and look outside. This is very important to building bases. It's not vital, but it's a very useful thing to have. There are a lot of cheap skins out there with windows. Now we add that, and then we add a window as well, so we get a bit more visibility. You can always add a embrasure inside here or on the outside, so when you pick up the glass, you can actually get a bit more cover when defending your base. So that's an option as well. And then we want to add Choco peaks that face outwards like this. And then if you want to have the perfect height, you can actually place these planter boxes. These give you the perfect height for crouching, so your recoil is at a minimum, and it's the most effective as possible. You'll also notice that when upgrading these, the non-skinned version gives you more of a peak than the skinned version. It's slightly thicker, as you can see, so that's always a thing to be aware of. Yeah, so we can then add these on either side, or what we can do is we can add beds, which are pretty much perfect, but they're a little bit higher than planter boxes. So if you don't need beds, planter boxes are probably the best option for getting the perfect height. So this is slightly better, so this is a little bit more looking down. I think that I prefer this anyway, because then you have more respawn areas. And then underneath here, very common, you just add a single box for your kits. Then we can also add a garage door for increased raid cost. And this doorway here I'd always unskin so you can't see through it, so from the outside raiders won't be able to see that you have beds and respawn kits in here. And then here you can, I'd actually say, it's up for debate. You can either add windows so you can look outside, or you can remove the windows. I'd actually put it like this, because then you can hop out and peek through the wide gap, which would be more surprising. Otherwise, they'll be able to see through the window, see you're exiting through here, and pre-aim you. So that's probably not the best idea. So we just put it this way. And then we'll also add a auto turret in here. You don't want to put it right at the back, so bring it forward a little bit so it has the best angle into your compound. Now we can then add a bit of chain link cover. Actually, we don't need to do that, do we? Because we've already added the chain link up here. So we can add it here, like so, and then we can add this as well. Make sure you add a gate on one of the sides if you can't already access your turret, so you can supply it with stuff. So I just add it there, and you can actually just jump up through here. I imagine the jump's quite awkward. No, it's not. Okay, so then this is the way you can access your turret. There we go. So that's complete. Pretty much the compound's done. Now what we're going to do is work on the roof. So as I said before, we have these areas that we can use. So we could, the entrance here, we could add our respawn areas in here. So what we're going to do is add 2 respawn areas like this. Rotate this, and rotate this. We're then going to add one way as our entrance. So I put this entrance on the same side as this entrance here. I like to always do that. I don't know why, to be honest. I don't know if it increases the raid cost or protects you more. If someone's doing a door raid through here, I guess. Yeah, it's not too important which configuration you have, but make sure one of these is a jump up. You can also replace all of these with a jump up, so you have 3 different entrances onto your roof. But as we want to have some space for some respawn areas or maybe some more storage, we can use these honeycombed areas instead. So if we just add a double doorway here, add a jump up. You also want to add a Pacheco peak here for a roof peak. So we can then add a horizontal embrasure like that. That's quite a good idea. And then we can add our entrance, adding a half wall here, full wall here, and then maybe a window. We could add a window here. That's an option. So then we can add a window, full wall, then a half height window, half wall, floor, and then just floor on the top with a single door. Then what we can do is we can add our windows here. This is blocked by the roof triangle, so we can either keep this, but just make sure you place these windows first, then you place these. That does work. Or we can keep these already built, add a low wall. We could add another roof like this, maybe. That is an option. I don't know what's going to be the best though. It's just quite important to have cover here, so I think we're actually going to just make sure that we build this first and then add the roofs later. So we're going to do that. And then what we can do is we can add either horizontal embrasure. I think horizontal embrasure is better here, like this. Reason for that, because we can add, maybe not a full box, but add a single box here and a single box here. Maybe a little bit closer like this. Like this. It's a pretty good angle that we can achieve, while also achieving some good angles through the shooting floor below. And then on top, I just recommend adding this here, a double door here, and then we can either add a little bit cover, maybe like a low wall or something, or even another frame, and then we can add like our windmills on top of these as well. So we can then add I think you can put netting here as well, so we have netting that we can jump up onto. Maybe a double door here, window here. Then I want to add garage doors to increase the raid cost. And add the horizontal embrasures, and then single doors with the windows on them. And then we can add our little turret pods into these areas here, and then we pretty much complete the roof. I think I'm pretty happy with this space considering we just made it right now. So let's now add some single doors on. And the next stage when building a base is mainly just to see if you've got enough storage. So as you can see, we're using a lot of these squares for entrances, which isn't the best. I'd also add a double door here, just to airlock the single door into our shooting floor. So make sure you do that on each of the sides. And then also add garage doors too. Like this. Cool. You can also add maybe a window here and another door just to increase the raid cost, but it kind of blocks your angles, so you could probably put 2 garage doors here if you really have them spare, but it's quite expensive adding loads of gears for the build to the build cost. I think you can actually add okay, no, you can't because of this. Okay, we're just gonna leave that there. Awesome. Right. So once we've done that, also you won't be able to place it in this configuration with garage doors because the rollers will block the ladder hatch. So we'll do that now. There we are. And now I will run through some upgrades, how you upgrade the base. I always make a base completely out of stone to begin with, or completely out of one material, because as long as you have a good idea of how many walls there are to TC, you can then upgrade according to the raid costs. So I would always upgrade this foundation for the bunker to HQM, and then the honeycomb above it to metal. And then we can upgrade the next layer. So once you've done that, you then want to upgrade the next layer. Oh, sorry, the first layer of honeycomb. All to metal. The core will always be HQM, almost entirely. You can upgrade this middle one to, and then maybe HQM on each of these. This would actually be stone. Symmetry. Sorry, wood. So we'd leave that wood. And then this HQM, this HQM. Okay, then the core's pretty much done. Then we can upgrade all of that to metal. And then I would honeycomb all of these parts here, upgrading all the foundations as well. Now you can leave all of this stone if you want. The only reason I've upgraded each of this second layer of honeycomb to metal and stone is because this protects the HQM foundation. So if they were to go through metal, HQM, they'd be in. So that's why. And I want to keep it symmetrical so it keeps raiders guessing on where the bunker is. So this isn't necessary to increase raid cost, but you can upgrade it if you really want to. So I'm just going to do that because why not? So that's that. Then you want to upgrade this definitely to metal. This also definitely to metal. This to also metal as well. And then all of the shooting floor underneath parts. This can be left stone because it's just covering your head and the trigger peak. So you don't actually need that to be upgraded. Maybe this as it's your jump up, so you can probably upgrade that to metal. This I'd say as well would be quite useful to upgrade to metal. Maybe not though. Maybe we just leave that to stone. You can upgrade all of this as well to metal. You don't really need the if you upgrade all of these parts here to metal, you'd then be supporting most of the shooting floor just from this middle part, so you don't really need to upgrade all of it. Sometimes this is really awkward to get to, so I'm just going to delete that. There we are. So, and then you put it all the way down to the foundation. This can be upgraded to metal as well. You can either add one of these with the walls blocking it, but you can add these to increase the soft side raid cost, but no one's going to be soft siding this really, so that's not really a problem. Let's upgrade all the frames supporting the shooting floor. Upgrade these windows, I'd say, and the floor above that supports the turret. And then I think that is about it. Now, all of this is obviously decaying right now on each of the sides, so we just got to connect to an external TC, which we will do now. So build out by 1 triangle, 2 squares, and then another triangle, or actually just 1 square, you can do that too. So we're just going to add a very simple turret, but not turret. I don't know why I'm thinking turret. TC. So we add this. There we are. Then we can check it works. Like this. Awesome. And then all you need to do is upgrade where the TC will be. Sometimes I'll upgrade this as well, but it's not vital. The TC, and there we are, and that's pretty much the base complete. And the only thing now to do is add deployables, which you can then vary a lot, but I feel like deployables is very customizable and depends what you want to play the wipe with, whether you're farming or more about PvP, storage, whatever it might be. You might want to also upgrade these, especially this window that goes directly into your floor below. And then this, up to you. You can put HQM if you want, just to prevent MLRS from going straight into your shooting floor area. Maybe that's a good option too. And now on this side here, as you can see, you'll notice that you've got spare honeycomb and you need more storage. So we'll then add windowed loot rooms like this. There we are. And that is pretty much, and then we have one little area which is perfect for our level 2 workbench to place and more storage. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. So we could then add we would add our TC here, but as you can see, building privilege is active right now from the external TCs. So you will then obviously need to disconnect this and add your final TC. I'll actually put this base in the description down below with the builder's SANC code, so you can check it out or modify it if you like this design. So I hope you like this type of video. It's the first time I've really talked actively while recording instead of doing a voiceover, so let me know if you prefer this kind of build style and video style. See if it works better for you. Let me know down in the description. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.